Death waits for no one. It strikes without warning, without mercy, and often without time to prepare. While many avoid the subject altogether, choosing denial over discomfort, the wise understand that awareness is not fear, it is strength. Your body does not go quietly into the night. It signals, it whispers through change, fatigue, and subtle decline. These are not myths or superstitions. They are real, observable signs, backed by both ancient wisdom and modern medicine. In this video, you will learn the 5 physical clues that death may be approaching, not to alarm you, but to awaken you, to sharpen your senses, to give you the power to recognize what others overlook, whether for yourself or someone you love. This knowledge is a shield, helping you face the inevitable with courage, calm, and control. Watch carefully, because when the body speaks, the prepared listen. Sign 1. Sudden and unintentional weight loss. This sign often emerges quietly, but its impact is unmistakable. It begins with subtle changes, smaller portions at meals, a forgotten snack, a full plate left untouched. Over time, this disinterest in food deepens. It becomes a complete withdrawal from nourishment. The body no longer hungers, not out of choice, but because the internal systems that once processed and absorbed nutrients are slowing, shutting down, preparing for release. The metabolism, once a fiery engine of life, begins to cool. Energy is no longer spent on digestion, movement, or maintaining muscle. Instead, it is preserved, held for only the most essential functions: breathing, heartbeat, the slow, sacred winding down of life itself. You will notice the person's appearance change. The face becomes gaunt, the eyes sink slightly, the jawline sharpens. Clothing that once fit well now hangs loose. The collarbones become more pronounced. The arms and legs grow thinner, more fragile. There is a lightness to their physical form, but it is not the lightness of health. It is the body's way of quietly preparing to depart. This kind of weight loss is not reversible, not because of lack of care, but because it marks a deeper transformation. It is not simply physical, it is metaphysical. The person is beginning to unburden themselves, to release attachment to the material, the flesh, the routine of eating and feeding, to the living. It can be difficult to accept. Our instinct is to help, to feed, to fix. But death is not something to be fixed. It is something to be faced, with steadiness, with wisdom, with deep respect. In some moments, the person may try to eat, more to comfort you than to nourish themselves. A bite here, a sip there, but they will not want more. Their body will resist. And your job is not to force what no longer serves. It is to stand steady beside them, to offer support that is free from expectation. The Stoic path teaches us to differentiate between control and influence. In this moment, you have no control over their appetite, over the slow dissolving of their form, but you do have influence. You can shape the energy in the room. You can make the silence a sanctuary. You can make their final days free from pressure, free from guilt, free from fear. This weight loss is not failure. It is the body's final wisdom. A recognition that holding on is no longer necessary, that there is strength in release, that what lies ahead is not to be feared, but to be entered with grace. And so, when you see this sign, when the body grows smaller, the appetite fades, and the physical world begins to fall away, do not panic. Do not plead. Do not attempt to reverse what nature has ordained. Instead, meet it with the same discipline and calm the body is showing you. Stay present. Speak gently. Allow the fading to happen on its own terms. Because this is not just about the end of life. It is about the completion of a journey, a closing chapter, a final return to stillness. And your role in this moment is not to fight it, but to honor it. That is the power of understanding. That is the strength of the unwavering. Sign 2, mental and emotional detachment. As the body nears its final surrender, the mind too begins to release its hold on this world. What once sparked interest now fades into the background. Conversations lose their grip. The desire to engage, to analyze, to plan, all begin to dissolve. This is not confusion. It is not forgetfulness. It is a shift in awareness. The person begins to detach, not because they are lost, but because they are preparing. Their attention moves from the outer world to the inner, from time to eternity, from noise to silence. And if you are not prepared, this change can be misunderstood. It may feel like distance, like rejection, but it is not that. It is transition. It is the soul loosening its final attachments. You may see it in the eyes once bright and reactive, now distant, as if focused on something far beyond the room. You may hear it in their voice, softer, slower, or perhaps no voice at all. They may withdraw from family, from conversation, from even the most familiar faces. At times they may become confused, disoriented, unsure of names or places. But other times, they are clear, sharp, and quiet, choosing not to speak, not out of inability, but because words are no longer necessary. This is a sacred stillness, and if you lean into it with understanding, you will see that it carries profound meaning. The person may speak of seeing someone who has already passed. They may mention light, or doors, or journeys. They may reach toward the air, or seem to listen to something you cannot hear. These are not hallucinations in the medical sense. They are the final awareness of a soul crossing thresholds you are not meant to follow. Not yet. Emotionally, you may notice serenity that is strangely out of place, a calm that seems too calm, a release of worry. Even when the situation appears grim, or perhaps they show moments of restlessness, agitation, unresolved memories, bursts of fear or sadness. All of this is part of the same process. The unraveling of the self from the structure of life, the detachment from identity, memory, and duty. They are not losing who they are. They are shedding what they no longer need. This detachment is not something to fix. It is not your role to pull them back into the world they are already leaving behind. It is your role to hold the space, to remain present and grounded, to become the still point in a turning world. The Stoic stands here, not with panic, but with poise. You do not resist what is happening. You do not plead or press. You simply are. You breathe. You listen. You sit in silence when silence is all that remains. And that silence becomes strength. That calm becomes guidance. Because what the person needs most now is not your words, but your steadiness, your ability to be with them, fully and without fear, as they turn toward the unknown. This mental and emotional withdrawal is not a disappearance. It is a preparation. It is the soul releasing its grip on the temporary and returning to the eternal. It is the self returning home. And if you can witness it without needing it to change, you honor the deepest part of this passage. You do not interfere. You do not flinch. You allow. And that, more than anything, is a gift. Because in this moment, your presence calm, masculine, unwavering becomes their final anchor in this world. A steady light in the dimming room, a shield of strength in the silence. That is the essence of true resilience. That is the discipline of the soul prepared for loss, but never for collapse. The one who stands firm while all else fades. Sign 3. A dramatic shift in sleep patterns. This is one of the most consistent and telling indicators that the body is entering its final phase. In the days, or even weeks, leading up to death, the body begins to conserve its energy in an unmistakable way. You may notice the person sleeping for long stretches, sometimes 16, each day, or even 20 hours a day. But this is not ordinary rest. It is a deep withdrawal from the outer world, a strategic retreat. The body is no longer prioritizing digestion, movement, or alertness. Instead, it is preserving its final reserves of strength for the essential functions of transition, slowing the heartbeat, quieting the breath, dimming the senses. This kind of fatigue is not laziness, nor is it something to be corrected or pushed through. It is a biological truth and a spiritual reality. The person may seem distant, unreachable, as if they are drifting between two worlds. They may become unresponsive at times, with shallow breathing, closed eyes, and a pale complexion. Or they may experience moments of sudden clarity, brief awakenings where they speak a few words, recognize a loved one, or stare silently at something unseen. These moments are often misunderstood. They are not signs of recovery. They are flashes of consciousness as the body prepares to let go. In some cases, the pattern is reversed. The person may have difficulty sleeping at all. Restlessness, agitation, or a sense of unease may settle in. They might fidget with their sheets, shift positions constantly, or attempt to rise even when they lack the strength to stand. This is equally significant. It may be the body's final effort to resolve unfinished business, to process emotion, to find peace before surrender. Whether they sleep deeply or remain unsettled, the underlying truth remains. The body is no longer aligned with the routines of life. It is following a different rhythm now, a rhythm that points inward, a rhythm that signals closure. To those watching, this can be painful. There may be a deep instinct to shake them awake, to keep them talking, to make them eat or move or respond. But these urges are often rooted in our own fear of loss, not the needs of the dying. The Stoic approach is different. It calls for stillness, for presence, for strength that is felt, not forced. This is the time to become an anchor, not through action, but through grounded silence. Your calm becomes their shelter. Your patience becomes their peace. Recognize this sign for what it truly is. A final message from the body. spoken without words. An invitation to slow down, to observe, to prepare. It is not the end yet, but it is the turning, a threshold, one that calls not for panic, but for honor, because to witness it clearly, without denial, without fear, is to rise, to stand guard at the edge of life, with quiet dignity. That is the mark of inner mastery. That is the strength of the unwavering. Sign 4. The final body. Communication's unusual smells, sounds, and reflexive movements. As the end draws near, the body begins to speak in ways that words cannot. These final expressions are not deliberate, not chosen by the person, but they are real, and they carry meaning for those who are paying attention. The body, stripped of control and conscious coordination, still sends signals, through scent, through sound, through small movements that mark the final transitions. One of the most distinct changes is the smell. A unique, pungent odor can begin to emerge from the body, especially from the breath, the skin, or the fluids. It is not simply the smell of illness or poor hygiene. It is the scent of the body shutting down, the release of compounds that signal the breakdown of internal systems, the liver, the kidneys, the digestive tract. They are no longer filtering, no longer cycling. The scent can be sharp, metallic, or sweetly rotten, and though unpleasant, it is not unnatural. It is the body's quiet signal that its work is almost done. In these last stages, strange sounds may also arise. Moans, gasps, or soft vocalizations, none of which are always conscious. These are not cries of pain, but rather the echoes of breath moving through relaxed vocal cords. The death rattle may intensify, wet, gurgling sounds caused by fluid the person can no longer swallow or clear. These sounds can be alarming, but they are not evidence of suffering. They are simply the body's mechanical processes winding down. The nervous system, too, may send out final signals, twitches, sudenjerks, reflexive grasping, or even a brief moment of rigidity. Sometimes, moments before passing, the person may sit up, open their eyes, or speak a final sentence with unexpected clarity. This is known as the surge, a mysterious phenomenon where consciousness returns briefly, sometimes just minutes before death. Do not mistake it for recovery. It is the final burst of life before the silence. These signs, though physical, speak deeply to the soul of the observer. To see them without fear requires a prepared mind, a grounded spirit, a presence that does not flinch. And that is your role. You are not here to fix, to stop, or to reverse. You are here to observe, to bear witness, to offer calm in a moment when all things shake. This is the final communication of the body, stripped of all pretense, all defense, all illusion. It is raw, unfiltered, honest, and if you are still, you will understand that these final moments are not grotesque. They are sacred. The body's last breath, the final twitch, the fading heartbeat. Each of these is a drumbeat leading the soul home. Let your presence be strong. Let your voice be steady. Do not fill the room with panic or noise. Do not look away. Do not fear the silence. In these final signs, nature is not cruel. It is precise. It is finishing what it began. Your role is to remain firm, composed, fully present. When the final breath is taken, let it pass without resistance. Let the moment be honored, because in witnessing these signs without collapsing, you rise. You become the quiet protector of that sacred crossing. You embody the highest form of discipline, the kind that stands firm when everything else fades. And in doing so, you prove what it means to live with clarity, to love without attachment, and to let go without fear. That is the strength of the unwavering. That is the final lesson. Sign 5. Visible physical changes, circulation, skin color, and breathing. As the body approaches its final chapter, it begins to speak in unmistakable ways. The signs are not vague. They are precise, deliberate. The body, no longer invested in the routine of living, begins to redirect its remaining energy inward, toward the core, toward the organs that still sustain life. Even in its final hours, one of the first physical indicators is a change in circulation. Blood retreats from the outer limbs. Hands and feet become cool, even cold. The fingertips and toes may darken or take on a bluish, purplish, or mottled tone. As blood flow slows and capillaries contract, the skin, once responsive to touch, may feel waxy, clammy, or damp. These aren't symptoms of illness. They are nature's calculated descent. The body is conserving what remains, shutting down systems that are no longer needed. Digestion stops. Heat regulation falls. Muscles weaken. There is no panic within the body, only strategy. It is doing what it was designed to do: release, retreat, and close the loop with grace. Breathing shifts too. What was once rhythmic and automatic becomes irregular, shallow at first, then slow. Pauses stretch longer, then come sharp. Gasping inhales, followed by long silences. This is known as Cheyne-Stokes breathing. It is not comfortable to watch, but it is not a sign of suffering. The brain is gradually letting go of the signals that once commanded breath. Each cycle is part of the body's final rhythm. Some hear a gurgling sound, often called the death rattle. This happens when the throat muscles relax and saliva or fluid collects. It sounds harsh, but it is not painful. It is the body doing what it must. As control fades from voluntary systems, these sounds, this rhythm, this slow letting go, it is the cadence of completion, the exhale before silence. You may see the eyes dim. The gaze becomes vacant, unblinking, staring through people rather than at them. The pupils may widen. The eyelids may remain half closed. There may be tears, but not from sadness. Tears formed from reflex, not emotion. The voice will fade, sometimes to a whisper, and eventually to silence. There will be no more responses, just breath, then less breath, then none. These signs are the final pages being turned, and they deserve reverence, not fear, to the unprepared. These changes create alarm, but to those who live with awareness, who walk the Stoic path, there is no fear, only clarity. You do not beg them to return. You do not overwhelm them with words. You do not crowd the space with noise. Panic, ordinal. You recognize what is happening for what it is. Natural, intentional, unstoppable. You slow your own breath. You become still. You become the unmoving rock in the rising tide. You place a steady hand on theirs, not to hold them back, but to walk with them to the very edge. You are not here to rescue. You are here to witness, to guard, to remain grounded as they let go. In this sacred moment, power does not come from action. It comes from presence. It is not what you say. It is what you radiate. Calm, strength, acceptance. No panits, no begging, only a grounded, masculine stillness that says, I am here. You are not alone. Let go when you are ready. You are safe. You are respected. That is your role in this moment. That is the armor of the awake, the discipline of the unwavering, the final act of service before release. And it is enough. Death is not the enemy. Denial is. Most people walk through life unprepared, afraid to look, afraid to listen, afraid to understand what is inevitable. But you are not most people. You have now seen the signs. You've learned to recognize the clues the body gives in its final chapter, not to feed fear, but to sharpen awareness, because clarity is strength. And in these final moments, when others collapse under emotion, you will remain firm, still, unshaken. This knowledge is not morbid. It is armor. It is the difference between panic and poise, between helplessness and presence. Whether you are facing the end of your own life or standing beside someone you love, these signs give you power. The power to respond without confusion, the power to offer calm when others offer noise, the power to stand as a pillar of peace. When everything around you begins to fade, remember, resilience is not loud. It is silent, stoic, rooted. It is the strength to witness death without turning away, the discipline to stay composed in the presence of the unknown, and the wisdom to understand that letting go, when the time comes, is not weakness. It is mastery. If this message has reached you, it is because you were ready to hear it. Walk forward now, not with fear, but with presence. Carry this knowledge with respect, and when the moment comes, meet it with calm eyes, steady breath, and unshakable strength. That is the mark of one who is prepared. That is the quiet power of the unwavering,